I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Saudi Arabia accuses Lebanon of declaring war. Australia commits billions towards developing its own Iron Dome. And step aside, lassie, because a dog in Paris has just saved its Jewish family from an anti-Semitic attack. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Tensions in the Middle East are escalating very quickly in ways that may have consequences for Israel. Saudi Arabia has just accused Lebanon of declaring war against its kingdom. This comes mere days after Lebanon's prime minister shockingly resigned from office while abroad in Saudi Arabia and publicly announced that Hezbollah and Iran had overrun the Lebanese government.
أبلغ فخامة الرئيس سعد الحريري عن المضمون وأهمية الوضع الحالي في المنطقة والوضع الخاص في لبنان وما تتعرض له المملكة العربية السعودية من عدوان على أيدي حزب الشيطان اللبناني، وتم إطلاعه على كافة تفاصيل الأمور وتم إبلاغه بأن هذه الأعمال تعتبر أعمال إعلان حرب على المملكة العربية السعودية من قبل لبنان ومن قبل حزب الشيطان اللبناني. سوف تعامل الحكومة اللبنانية كأنها حكومة إعلان حرب.
The Iranian foreign minister has just fired back at those claims on Twitter. Iran apparently blames President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner for regional bullying that led to the Lebanese prime minister's sudden resignation. Kushner visited Saudi Arabia last month, leading the U.S. envoy to push for peace between Israel and the Palestinians. And to make this international mess even more complicated, we've just learned that Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has made a surprise visit to Saudi Arabia as well. So let's try to make sense of this for a second. Iran and Saudi Arabia are fierce rivals. Lebanon has now been wedged between them, and both Hezbollah and Iran have footholds in Lebanon. But don't forget that the PA is reconciling with Hamas right now, and just last week, Hamas held talks with Hezbollah. Confused yet? I don't blame you, but needless to say, these shifting alliances are certainly going to be new challenges for Israel. All right, Harvey Weinstein's sexual assault scandals continue to send shockwaves throughout Hollywood, but a shocking new report has just made this an Israeli affair. Turns out Weinstein hired former Israeli Mossad agents in an attempt to stop newspapers from publishing their explosive findings into Weinstein's history of sexual misconduct. Ronan Farrow has been leading the crusade against Hollywood sex abuse for years, and first broke the New Yorker story detailing Weinstein's decades of assault. Now, Farrow has another bombshell for the world, a signed contract between Weinstein and a company called Black Cube, an Israeli firm with headquarters in Tel Aviv made up of mostly ex-Mossad agents. And from the agreement, it's clear that Black Cube's only mission was to keep all of the stories against Weinstein buried, and even gather damaging intel on Weinstein's victims. Black Cube agents even used false names and fake organizations to meet with actress Rose McGowan, who has come forward to accuse Weinstein of rape. This report comes just a day after top Israeli TV executive Alex Giladi was accused of sexual misconduct, allegedly exposing himself to a veteran Israeli journalist. Giladi is the president of Israel's Keshet Broadcasting Group and Israel's chief rep on the Olympic Committee. Statistics show that about 800,000 to 1 million people in Israel of working age have a disability. Yet, despite how common this issue is, there are still a lot of barriers when it comes to integrating the disabled into Israeli society. Well, joining us now is a founder and dean of the Balkai Center for Practical Rabbinics to tell us about how his center is working to change the taboo within the ultra-Orthodox community. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about the wider issue. You know, what is one of the main issues that people with disabilities face within the Orthodox Jewish community?
I think people just don't feel welcome in a community setting. I don't think it's necessarily different between being Orthodox or not Orthodox. I just think that there's so much pressure to be the same today in social settings, and people with who have disabilities or people who have children who have disabilities often feel shame and uncomfortable being marked different and being looked at in synagogue, and they're just afraid of being different.
Now, why did your center choose to focus on this issue specifically?
Well, our center is dedicated to building community in Israel and communities in Israel, and we see that being a community means including everybody. So just for the simple idea that a community has to include all its members, or it's not really a community, and therefore we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome in synagogue.
So how are you doing that? I understand that you have a unique course that you're teaching to rabbis.
Yeah,
right?
so we have a 2-year training course for Israeli Hebrew-speaking rabbis all across Israel. We have 60 rabbis within our system, and there are many issues that we teach them, but the specific course that we just concluded deals with integrating people with disabilities into the synagogue.
Very interesting. So what kind of impact have you seen this course have on Jewish communities here in Israel?
It's happening slowly, but we see people feeling more welcome, and we see rabbis in synagogues going the extra mile to make sure that they have the sensitivities that are needed and the knowledge that is needed in order to make the synagogue a welcome environment for everybody.
Do you have any examples that you could give us?
Well, we have kids who have autism, for example, who very often, make noises or cry out and in synagogue, and their parents are often afraid to bring them because they're afraid that they'll be looked at. And we've trained our rabbis that that's okay, and it's nothing to be afraid of, and it's something to welcome. And there are many, many stories that I could give you that have, and just anecdotally, we've been told by many of our synagogue's members, not my synagogue, but the synagogues of the rabbis that are in our course, that they're that they just feel much more welcome in the synagogue.
Well, it's beautiful. It's very, very important that your center is focusing on this issue, because it's one where we need to spread awareness.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you.
Rabbi David Fine.
Thank you.
All right. Did you know that there are between 8,000 to 22,000 acres of landmine fields in Israel? Well, it looks like the state has just authorized a clearing of 20 of those acres. Now, that may not seem like a lot at first, but it will actually pave the way for nearly 1,200 new Jewish homes to be built in the West Bank. The clearing is already underway, having gotten the go-ahead from the Defense Ministry earlier this week. Mine detectors expect to find over 2,200 deadly mines in the area. But once they're cleared, the fresh land will be prime real estate for new West Bank homes. This is actually the government's first major mine removal operation in the West Bank, a new tactic in the country's controversial mission to grow Jewish settlements overall in the disputed territories. Those settlement leaders are overjoyed that these formerly dangerous areas will become new neighborhoods. Critics argue that this is yet another government scheme to steal legally owned Palestinian land, threatening any hope of a two-state solution. It looks like Israel's legendary Iron Dome defense system is coming to the land down under. That's right. Australia has just committed billions of dollars towards importing the system, along with tons of other advanced Israeli defense tech. ILTV's Aaron Pors is here with the scoop. Hi, Aaron.
Hello, and thank you very much. And as you have guessed, you were right. This is a major, major deal. And not only because the Iron Dome has only really been set up in Australia, or is only going to be set up in Australia first. So, yeah.
So tell us a little bit more. Why else is this a big deal? Because I understand that there's more tech as well that the country is receiving from Israel.
Well, I mean, part of it is that the Iron Dome is not the only thing that's a part of this deal.
Right.
There's a lot more to it, so that's one reason that it's a really major deal. The second is because it's a real show of strengthening ties between Israel and Australia, which has only recently started to get on that foot. It was only last year that Prime Minister Netanyahu became the first incumbent Israeli Prime Minister to actually go to Australia. And while he was there, he signed a bunch of agreements on agriculture, on tourism, and of course on the military as well.
And we covered that significantly ourselves. All right, let's check out your report for some more details.
Israel's Iron Dome was developed by Rafael Advanced Defense Systems and has proven incredibly effective at intercepting enemy rockets from ever hitting Israeli soil. Countries all over the world have had their eye on implementing the system for themselves, but it looks like Australia will officially be the first. Australia's military has just earmarked billions of dollars for making the purchase, which will even include opening a new branch of the Rafael company in Melbourne. That means that the Israeli defense company would work directly alongside other Australian defense companies. And while Rafael already has over 100 other collaborative projects with countries all over the world, this joint venture with Australia's military would be a massive upgrade. On top of the Iron Dome, the Land of Oz is expected to buy an array of Israeli missiles and systems, including the Trophy tank system and the Spike LR2 for long-range air defense. Quite the shopping list.
Now, in case you don't remember, earlier this year, a commotion broke out at the University of California, Irvine, when the organization Students for Justice in Palestine became aggressive at a panel held with IDF veterans. Now, it looks like that very organization is in big trouble with the university, and ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has the details.
In recent years, Students for Justice in Palestine have disrupted pro-Israel events and harassed students supporting Israel. So it didn't come as a complete surprise when in March, SJP disrupted a group of Israeli Army reservists speaking at an event at University of California at Irvine. What was unusual is that SJP got punished for its behavior. The Office of Student Conduct at UC Irvine found that SJP violated university policy and put the group on probation for 2 years.
We wanted to kind of raise awareness for what's really going on in Israel. We hosted them and it was an open panel. Anyone could come as long as they were respectful. And anyone could ask questions.
But little did they know, the panel would lead to a huge uproar after the group Students for Justice in Palestine joined in.
And no, I am not being paid to be here.
No, you can't cry. You don't deserve to cry. You don't deserve to cry.
I will say SJP, like I said earlier, has a long pattern of trying to intimidate students supporting Israel.
Causing chaos. They were chanting, screaming, debating with, or not really debating, kind of like screaming at the Israeli soldiers.
This is not the first time an incident like this has occurred at UC Irvine. According to a student from the school back in 2015, a similar event was held hosting IDF veterans, and Students for Justice in Palestine prevented the students at the event from leaving the panel.
It's important that free speech is protected for everyone here.
Free speech is under attack on this campus, and it's under attack in a lot of campuses because people aren't interested in the truth anymore. They're only interested in propagating what they think is the truth, and a lot of the times they're willing to lie to do it. And so I think that this is a great beginning of the university starting to take free speech seriously and starting to understand what's really going on campus.
And it seems like the move is making students across campus feel a lot safer.
Student groups, by the code of conduct that's specified in the student code, are held accountable for what their group does under their sanction.
I do feel a little bit safer knowing that they can't really do that. If they do this again, they will be punished much more severely. I'm hoping that will be incentive enough. I can't be sure, obviously, but it does make me feel a little bit more relieved. It's not much, but it's something.
I think it's good, knowing that the campus did, do something about it. That makes me feel a little safer. In case something else happens, they're on top of it,
Reservists on duty will continue to reach every campus that they get invited to. They plan on speaking on panels and in discussions in order to promote dialogue and empower students and Jewish campus organizations.
Israel is known for its top-of-the-line military-grade intelligence, but now one Israeli startup is using that intelligence for an entirely different reason: to fight insurance fraud. Joining us in the studio is Eugene Greenberg, the CEO and co-founder of ClickIns. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what your company does.
We're developing multi-stack intelligence as a service platform for predicting and detecting fraud, insurance fraud, at all levels, starting from point of sale, possible fraud engagement, to point of claim, where a customer is trying to file the fraudulent claim.
Very interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
And we're using military-grade intelligence techniques to do that.
Talk about that, military-grade intelligence techniques. This sounds very unique because you don't necessarily consider that something that would be used in dealing with insurance fraud typically, right? How did you come up with the idea of combining these two?
First of all, just look at the industry. $5 trillion industry, insurance industry all over the world is having trouble making money on main business. for each dollar that insurance company collected on insurance in 2016, they almost paid same dollar away. One of the major reasons is fraud. We address fraud not just a regular criminal activity, but we address fraud like it would be a terrorist activity, which means you always has to be a few steps ahead in order to be predictable, in order to predict it and not just to react to it. And we're using multiple technologies to do that.
Can you kind of, break that down in easier terms for those of us who don't understand how this technology
I'll give an example.
works?
These days we're releasing our one of our first product that we're using cutting-edge technology that concentrated on motor insurance.
Okay.
170 years ago, first time in the history, human fingerprint start to be used in forensics for matching.
Right.
See, till today, enforcement departments using it. So we reinventing this approach to car damage. With a single picture of a damaged car, we generate a very unique digital signature, like a fingerprint. And then each new damage that comes to insurance company, we match it. That's why we're cutting off two biggest fraud schemes. Combining damages, multiple use of damaged parts, deliberately increased damage. All these fraud schemes will be cutting off with our technology.
It's unbelievable. Well, listen, it seems like you've created something that is certainly going to help these insurance companies and not those people who are trying to take advantage of them by any means. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about this technology.
Thank you.
If you needed another reason to love man's fluffiest, cutest, best friend, then look no further. A Jewish family was saved from a suspected anti-Semitic arson attack the other night by none other than their faithful family dog. At first, the family was perplexed when their dog wouldn't stop barking in the middle of the night. But as soon as they saw the smoke, it became shockingly clear someone had doused their front door in chemicals and set it on fire. Luckily, they were woken up before the flames spread, giving them enough time to escape with their lives. All thanks to their loyal dog. French police believe one of their neighbors, an Arab man with a history of anti-Semitic posts on social media, may be behind the crime. And just a week before this attack, a hooded man was seen lighting the family's car on fire. This is, of course, just the latest in a surge of anti-Semitism against French Jews, crimes that have only gotten more and more violent over the last few years. Maybe the moral of this story is that every family needs to get themselves a dog, don't you think? All right, now this may sound surprising, but it's actually pretty common for unexploded bombs from World War II to be found in Germany. We've reported on many of these cases, which often lead to the evacuation of thousands of people. Well, now yet another bomb discovery has just been made in Germany, causing major alarm across southwestern Germany. But it turns out it was actually a vegetable, and perhaps the scariest one the world has ever seen. This week, a worried German resident called police in a panic, thinking he had found a World War II bomb in his garden. But when officers rushed over, they found something a lot less dangerous, a particularly large zucchini. Well, the offending vegetable apparently really did look like a bomb. It's 16 inches long and 11 pounds. We can guess why it caused a scare. Police think someone threw the dark veggie over a hedge and into the garden, so it's fair to say that the 81-year-old German man that found it just wanted to play things safe. Israel is a world leader in developing agricultural technology, and joining us with a scoop on some of the Holy Land's latest inventions is Dr. Joe Wise, the head of the patent department at Eyal Bressler & Co. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
All right, so what are some of the biggest challenges in the agricultural industry today?
Well, hunger.
Well,
hunger is
a pretty big one.
The ability to grow crops with an expanding population in the world, the ability to grow crops at higher yields in areas that they weren't grown before, new types of foodstuffs, new ways of increasing yield, new methods of plant and crop protection, animal husbandry systems.
And Israel is behind a lot of the technology that has been trying to essentially eliminate these issues.
Natasha, Israel is a powerhouse of agricultural science and technology, almost all of which is relevant and is in fact targeting abroad, the rest of the world.
So tell us a little bit about what, some of the most important new inventions are that have come out of this country related to this industry.
There are a great number of field crops who have improved yields, improved traits. There are numerous inventions and improvements in irrigation and fertilization techniques. A lot of work is being done on post-harvest packaging systems.
So in your opinion, what is the coolest development we should be keeping our eye out for in the future?
Oh, well, I knew you were going to ask that, so I would actually say there are two. They're all cool, they're all good, but there are two absolutely world-beating technologies that are coming out of Israel. One of which is the developments in edible duckweed technology. Which will be edible duckweed.
Okay.
These are new ways of providing nutrients and providing food sources for all kinds of for the food industry.
And number two?
But number two is amazing. I mean, it's not number two. It's just the second one that I'm mentioning. Is the biological control of pests, the biological control of all kinds of diseases that affect crops. The market is vast, and Israel is a world leader in this field, and we're very privileged to represent most of the technologies.
Absolutely. I mean, we cover these stories every day.
Yeah.
Substitutes for meat that are made out of in labs here, right? There's so much to say, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, pay attention, guys, because this story involves, that's right, dinosaurs. A new Israeli study has just announced that prehistoric mammals were actually almost completely nocturnal in order to escape and survive the most fearsome lizards ever to walk the earth. This new research comes from Tel Aviv University, who analyzed the behaviors of nearly 2,500 living mammal species. They were then able to run computer simulations to predict their lifestyles during prehistoric times, and realized that during the reign of dinosaurs, they were almost all completely nocturnal. That's because cold-blooded dinosaurs were likely active during the day, giving mammals the nighttime to seek food and water. Another critical piece to this puzzle is that most mammals, except for primates and humans, have eyes and ears that are actually more ideal for nocturnal lifestyles. Scientists now suspect that after the dinosaurs went extinct, certain mammals slowly adapted to daytime schedules, while others remained active at night, and some went on to straddle both night and the day. That would certainly explain the bizarre lifestyle of cats.
Enroll in eTeacher's online Hebrew courses and quickly discover that it creates the deepest connection to Israel that you could ever imagine.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. I like to think that we're all kind of animals, so today's word is yonek, which means mammal in Hebrew. The word yonek actually comes from the word leanik, which means to suckle or breastfeed. Makes sense, all mammals breastfeed, just like baby humans. And I don't know about you, but I love every yonek there is. My favorite, perhaps, is the lion, and of course my own little fuzzy yonek, Milan, the dog. The problem is not everyone views yonkim or mammals the way that I do, and when they don't care, they don't protect. Leopards, tigers, gorillas, elephants, these are just some of the yonkim that are critically endangered. And it's largely because of the changing environment, which is largely caused by, guess who? Humans. So if you care about making sure our yonkim don't go extinct, think twice about how you treat your environment. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight will be a little cloudy but warm after a rise in temperatures leaves us with a low of about 63 or 17 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow you can expect a drop in temperatures and a partly cloudy sky with a high of about 75 or 24 degrees Celsius. Now, for those of our viewers who don't know, it's actually ILTV's second birthday, and to celebrate, we have some special guests from AFSI, Americans for a Safe Israel. Mazal Tov, ILTV. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.51 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in, guys.
A pleasure.